morning, and thank you for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be covering the NCAA could pay over $2.7 billion to settle the antitrust suits. We'll also be talking about the Indianapolis Star-Bar's columnist Greg Doyle for covering Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. We'll also be talking about Caitlin Clark facing security scare. And since it's Friday, we'll be diving into our Florida Man Friday story of the week. And make sure that you guys stick around for the end of the show when we'll be diving into our oddities of the day. Before we start, though, I'd like to ask you guys like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. The tips and donation link is GSMC podcast.net. Let's just put your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps the show. But today we're doing the show a little bit differently. We've got some guests with us here today. So we have Samantha from the Hoops and Heels podcast show, and then we also have Tommy joining us again from the GSMC College Football Show. So welcome, guys.
Wait, I don't get introduced.
And Tate, excuse me.
I'm like, wait a minute. I don't get no love over here today.
Sorry.
Man, Thomas, you come to your show, you expect to get at least a little bit of love, and it's
that's what I'm saying. Like... This is a cruel world over here.
Excuse me.
Welcome you guys to the show. Excited to have you guys.
Yes,
Samantha. With Hoops and Heels. That's one of our new shows that she's just starting out with. Incredibly excited for that show. And then Thomas has been around a little while, and he has the college football show. I'm a big college football fan. If anyone's watched the show, they know that. So looking forward to chatting with Thomas about some college football as well. And Miss Faith, starting out, you said 7 point something million, and I was like, wait a minute, what story are we covering?
2.7 billion. My apologies. It's Friday. I'm ready for the weekend.
It is definitely Friday.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Alrighty. Well, if we're ready, we can go ahead and just dive into this. All right.
It's definitely, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's going to be a little different. We've never done the show with 4 people in the show, so that is definitely different. So all right, let's dive in here and let's see what's going on.
Alrighty, yeah. So for our first segment, we're going to be covering the NCAA could pay over $2.7 billion to settle the antitrust suits. This story is coming from ESPN. So the NCAA's national office might be footing the bill for a settlement expected to be more than $2.7 billion in the landmark House versus NCAA lawsuit and other related antitrust cases in hopes of reshaping and stabilizing the college sports industry, sources told ESPN on Thursday. Sources told ESPN this week that parties have proposed the NCAA's national office, rather than its individual member schools or conferences, would pay for the settlement of past damages over a period of 10 years. The NCAA payments would be paid to former college athletes who say they were illegally prevented from making money by selling the rights to their name, image, and likeness. The settlement would come with a corresponding commitment from conferences and schools to share revenue with athletes moving forward. Sources said the settlement would establish a framework for power conferences to share revenue with their athletes in the future. Sources have told ESPN that schools are anticipating a ceiling of nearly $20 million per year for athlete revenue share moving forward. That figure is derived from a formula that is expected to be, per sources, 22% of a revenue metric that is still being discussed, which is set to base on various revenue buckets. It would be up to the schools to share that much. The dollar value and timing, sources cautioned, is not set and could change due to the variables involved in the case. So,
okay, all right. So I'm gonna kick things off a little bit here. This is interesting to me. This, when you look at the dollar figure, I'm still concerned about this. When they say, is it 1.7 billion? How far is that going to go back to? I mean, if you think about it,
2.7 billion.
2.7 billion. Sorry, so I'm cutting them short. You were at the beginning. You were adding a little extra on.
Yeah.
When you think about college football, for the last almost 100 years, or this past century, they've always claimed amateurism, meaning that's the reason why players did not get paid. And we're not just talking, college football is the key to this whole situation because it's the biggest revenue generating sport. But it's not just football, it's basketball, women's basketball. Sorry, I got a little bit of a frog in my throat today. Sorry, but you're going back and you're looking at all these athletes that other universities, that different universities have been able to sell media rights for, jersey sales and everything else for the past, last century. And you're talking about, okay, how far back are they going to go to give people damages? If you're only going to go back 20 years, I could see people who played 30 and 40 years saying, hey, I want to sue because they deserve money. Or even going back, these people have not been getting paid for many years. And this isn't just football. This isn't just basketball, but women's basketball as well, women's softball. This has been going on a long time. I'm going to just quick ask, Samantha a question on this one. As someone who is getting to that point where you're getting to be a college graduate in college and looking at a lawsuit like this, how do you feel about about universities going back and paying athletes who didn't make money in the previous years?
I mean, I think they should. I mean, it's kind of a landmark situation in collegiate sports. And I think it'll probably change a lot of things going forward. But I mean, it's better to go back and to rather help these people rather than like try to change the future, and because it's just going to start people to have conflicts and it's just not going to really solve anything since it started from so long ago. Um, but no, like I definitely see it being an issue where people just use names as like on media, but like they don't get, it's not like compensated the same way. So I definitely see it, and I think this will be landmark in collegiate sports. Um, but I think that going back would probably be more beneficial to begin with. So I do see this as a good thing.
But how far back do you go?
I
You
don't,
understand what I mean?
I
That's the
really
question.
don't know because you can't really put like a date on it. And that's like the issue. Like I genuinely don't know how far they would go back. What like
That's
would be
the
the good answer?
Yeah. Go ahead, Thomas. I was going to let you go ahead in there.
My only real idea of when you could go back to was when all these media deals and everything started to pop up, but that's a much bigger bill than they have right now. So you really need to be careful with how far you go back because that 2.7 could turn into the 7.2 that
Yeah.
was slipped up at the beginning very, very quickly. So it's more about the NCAA. You want to get this monkey off your back, of course, but you've now set a precedent that you're willing to go back and pay all these athletes. What happens next is a huge question mark in college football and around college sports in general.
Because if they're talking about going back and going and paying damages, and you're saying, okay, we're going back to this era, to the Reggie Bush, Peyton Manning era. Then what about the guys who played back when Montana was playing and John Elway, Earl Campbell, Billy Sims, those guys? I mean, I remember, I'm a lot older than you guys. I remember playing college football games and having different players on there, and I know the players didn't get paid. I remember there was a college football game on I think it was Nintendo at the time. But these guys, they've been making college football's been making money off of players, not just in the recent time, not in this century, 2010s and 2020s, but the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so that's the thing that when I see this, I'm always curious about is where do you stop that faucet? Because I feel like this is going to be, even if they settle one lawsuit, how do they settle it for other generations? Does that make sense to you, Faith?
Yeah, it's definitely a very complicated situation, and I I can't give you a good amount of years to go back on to compensate those people because like you said, if you go back 20 years and pay all these people who didn't make any money, then there's going to be people from 30, 40 years ago that are going to be upset about it. The way it's laid out right now, it's not, there's not a lot of information right now about it, and it just, I don't know. I mean, there's always, with stuff like this, there's always going to be people who are going to be unhappy. That's always just the case in things like this. But this is just very complicated. So I can't give you a number amount of years to go back to make everybody happy, you know?
And then there's another component to this. The main component to this is they're coming up with a program for the future. I started off with, how do you plan for the future when you still have to compensate the past?
Mhm.
But when you look at it and they're saying, a revenue model where players are going to start getting paid and setting aside $20 million per school that they can actually pay out. And did that seem low to you, Thomas? 20 million a school, especially let's say Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State. That seems kind of low when you think about it. They're not putting a floor on it. Schools can decide on how much they want to spend up to 20 million. But two questions I'm gonna hit with Thomas. One, did that seem kind of low? And give me your overall thought on that one. And then with Samantha being the Hoops and Heels show, which is an all-encompassing women's sports show, one of the big fears about a settlement like this is that it could destroy Title IX and a lot of sports that are protected by Title IX, that for women, a lot of those sports could go away. And that's a dangerous thing about this, about either way on this lawsuit, how it affects everyone. So that's a concern. So Thomas, give me your thoughts first, and then I'm gonna roll to Samantha about concerns about how this could affect women's sports.
Yeah, so talking about the settlements, it's something that I've brought up a lot on my show where not every athletic department is built the same, not by a long shot. So there's a lot that make, $40 million dollars a year in revenue. There's Ohio State who makes 258 million. So there's this huge gap, and I think using a moniker of $20 million dollars is probably not the way you want to go about this. I think you have to have some type of way to make sure it is equitable all the way down the line and everyone has kind of the same allocation of whatever resources they do have. So say it's 5% of your annual revenue goes toward this type of thing. I think that's a viable way to go about it. But also when you're a smaller team and you see the $20 million figure, you say, okay, at least the gap between us and, UGA and Texas and all the teams you were talking about isn't necessarily that large in this part of the arena. So it could be kind of a, keeping the young guy or the small guys a little bit happier type of thing. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's something that I'm sure other schools, including Ohio State, Texas, and all those schools, will take advantage of in the future. If there is a little bit of leeway above 20 million, I think they'll definitely take it.
You know, I 20 million doesn't sound like a lot of money when you're thinking about college football. Just college football. They're talking about, wasn't that like for all sports, 20 million per year for all sports?
And then how you split that between the sports gets a little sketchy.
That's what I mean about 20 million. What is that? 19.8 to college football and zero point 0.2 to everything else.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous situation there because of women's sports and Olympic sports. And that's why I was with Samantha, I was saying I was concerned about some of the other women's sports. Go ahead. Well, you're gonna let you finish with your statement, Thomas.
I was just gonna say,
Samantha.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, if they're going based off who makes the revenue, football's making about 19.9 of that, baseball's making zero point 0.1, and then the other sports are gonna have to pay the school because they end up losing money. So it's gonna be somewhat of a battle, not only around every college, but within those athletic departments. How you allocate that money is gonna be a nightmare that I'm glad I don't have to deal with.
That's going to be hard. Go ahead, Samantha. Give us your thoughts.
I mean, I feel like this is a fair comment to make. And just based on like history, I don't think women's sports are going to be taking half of that money. I think they'll probably be taking less of it. Um, I don't know. I just feel like they might, but just based on history, but also just like I'm a bit confused on how they're supposed to split that up. Like, are they going to split up based on like who's getting the most media attention? Like,
Well, here's the thing. That hasn't been stated. That's why this conversation is. One, I in the chat, I sent you guys kind of a breakdown of how much per NCAA, how much each department, each sports program makes, like football, basketball. But when you look at it, majority, I mean, make sure you understand, majority of college sports athletic departments lose massive amounts of money. Now you're going to have to add an extra $20 million a year to a program that's already losing money. And the fear, I mean, like, I'm very protective of women's sports in general. I think they don't get enough recognition and they're very valuable. There are a lot of, speculation that there's going to be universities that are taking some of the lesser, more popular sports and just putting them on the cutting room floor. I don't know if did anyone see what I put in the chat there? Yeah, so you can kind of have a good understanding of that. So go ahead, Samantha.
I was just gonna say 31 million is crazy for football. That is so funny. Like I knew it was a big difference, but I was like, that's a huge difference. Like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, women's basketball, yeah, they're up there, but the other sports, they're not making as much profit, unfortunately. I think that's due to a lot of media attention, and I think that that probably will come into effect with splitting up 20 million.
And that's on average across the board, all schools.
Hmm.
Probably, I don't have the greatest percentage of that, but I would probably say 80% of that belongs to the top 10% of the schools, and the
Hmm.
rest of those schools are all losing money. All their programs lose money, including football. If you're not in the power conference. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean Tommy, but yeah.
Oh, I can't believe I just called you
That's so
TJ.
funny. I'll take the compliment. He's a good guy.
Wow,
But
I
yeah,
totally did that.
yeah, I mean, you talk about college athletics today, and it's football and everyone else, and that's just kind of the way it's been for the past little bit. But that gap is only really growing as of right now. So there's going to be difficult decisions that have to be made, and it's very, very likely that Title IX kind of goes out the window in all of this because a lot of the non-revenue making sports, because of the not getting enough media attention and things of that nature, are women's sports. So it's going to get a little sketchy and a little cutthroat within these athletic departments, and some decisions are going to have to be made that are going to really upset some people. And I think it all goes back to kind of the NCAA and all of these college sports in general just not having enough foresight with all of these situations that were coming down the road, and it's all caught up to them fairly quickly. So some tough things are going to have to happen that probably didn't have to happen in the grand scheme of things, but when you're a decade late on paying athletes and doing NIL and things of that nature, this stuff happens pretty quickly.
I will tell you right now, if they don't figure out the layout with that 20 million, there are going to be so many Title IX lawsuits coming out. So many.
Oh,
You have no
a
idea.
ton of them.
Yeah.
A
So,
ton of them are going to come out. And
yeah.
then I said, Samantha, you were talking about you were surprised at how much uh, the schools make, and I put in another graphic. Things I just pulled up the last second to show you kind of most schools lose money, but that top group of schools, man, they make a ton. This is the last thing we're gonna talk about. Then we're gonna go on break here. This is just kind of showing Samantha how much these schools pull in. So, all right.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to be covering Indianapolis Star Bars columnist Greg Doyle from covering Caitlin Clark in the Fever after inappropriate exchange, and then we'll also be discussing Caitlin Clark's security scare prompts major WNBA changes. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about the NCAA could pay over $2.7 billion to settle the antitrust suits, and now we're going to be covering Indianapolis Star Bars columnist Greg Doyle from covering Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and we'll also be touching on Caitlin Clark face security scare. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind you guys to like and follow the show. We get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. That link is gsmcpodcast.net. This just puts your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps the show.
All right. See,
All right.
this is the reason why Faith controls the show. You notice she comes back in, she's all smooth and everything. Then there's yours truly over here. I'm calling Thomas by the wrong name, everything. I'm like, damn. So I appreciate you, Miss Faith.
Thank you. Alrighty, well, let's just go ahead and dive into our second segment of the day. So we're going to be talking about Indianapolis Star Bars columnist Greg Doyle from covering Caitlin Clark and the Fever after an inappropriate exchange. So this story comes from Yahoo Sports. The Indianapolis Star has barred sports columnist Greg Doyle from covering Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever this summer following his exchange with the WNBA rookie in her introductory news conference. The Star confirmed the decision in an email to the Washington Post on Tuesday following a report by journalist and former Star columnist Bob Kravitz. Indianapolis Star sports columnist Greg Doyle will not be covering the Indiana Fever. Star spokesperson Lark Murray Anton wrote in an email to the Post. Kravitz also reported that Doyle was in the midst of a 2-week suspension. The Star didn't confirm his suspension, but the Post cited a source familiar with the situation that Doyle is indeed suspended without pay. Doyle referred the Post to the Star when it reached out to him for a comment. So, essentially, why Doyle was banned. Reading this was very uncomfortable for me to read this. So the awkward interaction was, hi, Caitlin, Greg Doyle, Indy Star, real quick. Let me just do this. And then he like flashes a little heart sign at her. And then Clark was like, you like that? And he was like, I like that you're here. I like that you're here. And then Clark replied to, I do that at my family after every game. So, and Doyle responded with, okay, we'll start doing that to me and we'll get along just fine. And that is essentially what made this happen. So
Okay. So more does that leads kind of more into like more harassment than is that what you're making her uncomfortable? Just trying to see.
no, I was saying reading this, it made me uncomfortable reading this, but
Oh,
but I would assume since he has been banned from covering Caitlin Clark, that it probably made her uncomfortable as well. So,
all
Caitlin
right.
Clark didn't actually talk about the situation publicly, so
mm,
I mean, I think that says more than it doesn't, if that makes sense.
yeah.
But then also, like, I watched the video and it was just a really awkward encounter. But like everyone laughed, so I don't know.
Did you think of it as more harassing or just an awkward moment? Give me your honest opinion. Ooh, look,
Okay,
she got the smile going here. Like,
okay, because I don't want to be canceled or something. I didn't think it was. I really didn't think it was harassment. Now, if I was like Caitlin Clark at that moment, I'd be like, okay, that was awkward. But like the amount of like like conferences or like any questions from journalists, like they're gonna be awkward. Like, let's be honest, like it happens all the time. But so I genuinely didn't take it as that terrible. Like we have worse things that females have been told at like their press conferences and like asked from like media.
Yeah,
But
but okay, so my thing is yes, that's probably not the worst thing that has happened regarding journalists with women's sports, but
it
for
was still
me,
disrespectful.
right, like you don't see journalists doing this to male athletes at press conferences.
Hmm.
This would never be an issue. So, while it may have just seemed like an awkward exchange, it was just extremely unprofessional. Um, and me reading this made me uncomfortable. Then that's just me,
wow,
maybe,
okay.
so, but
Now, see, I'm going to comment here. This is one of the things about this show that I like, and I love the fact that Faith and I come from very different walks of life as far as male, female, black, white, grew up in the South, I grew up in the North. I mean, just so many different dynamics because we look at things differently. And I understand, Samantha, you're like, I don't want to get canceled, but what
Mm.
I was, I when I looked at this and I listened to what you were saying, I felt like he was more guilty of being weird and awkward than creepy. That was kind of the vibe I got. It was like, you know how it's coming out and it's like, dude, walk away. Just walk away.
yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Please stop. That's the vibe I got that he just was just out of touch and I didn't feel like he meant harm, but it landed like, a lead balloon and just did not go over well. Go ahead, Thomas. Thomas, like, I'm
Yeah,
not talking about this topic.
no, I mean, yeah, when I first saw the video, it made me very uncomfortable. I'll be totally honest. It's a very weird exchange that definitely did not handle himself in the most professional way by any means. So I think when we're talking about, Caitlin Clark being maybe she wasn't outright upset about it, or maybe she wasn't, very angry or anything like that, or demanded anything by any means. But I do think there is a certain level of you want your athletes to be comfortable in all of the spaces
Hmm.
that you offer. So whether that's, on the court, in practice, or in press conferences, obviously there's more ability to be uncomfortable in those press conferences with the questions and things of that nature. But you want to make sure that people are, in a comfortable space throughout their day, especially in professional sports where it gets really nasty online. So I think that's a huge pusher behind this. And also, it's Caitlin Clark. It's one of the most, important, influential athletes on the planet right now. So I think you do have to exercise a certain amount of caution when you talk about if she's uncomfortable, then you got a problem, whether you're the Indy Star or the WNBA or the Indiana Fever. So I think it's a kind of just covering themselves type of thing, just to make
Hmm.
sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone understands that that was not the way that that should be handled, and kind of move forward from there.
No, I totally
Yes.
agree with you, Thomas. Yeah. I think it leads another question into like media ethics. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Doyle's been, I mean, around for a really long time. but like the lack of professionalism at the moment is pretty
Mm.
upsetting considering that he's had such a long career. But I respect that the star took action on it like pretty immediately, and I appreciate that he did make two public apologies. But still, like it does lead into a question like, should there be like, I don't know, more training or more like awareness for like sensitivity and like media ethics, like to prevent something that happens?
Right.
I agree.
We'll end that one with Samantha's last words then.
Alrighty, so moving forward, we're still going to be talking about Caitlin Clark. So Caitlin Clark's security scare prompts major WNBA change. So on May 7th, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert announced that the league is close to launching a program that will charter flights for all 12 WNBA teams to away games. Kathy hasn't confirmed what went into this major change yet, considering the public outcry after Caitlin Clark arrived at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport on May 2nd with extremely light security. The Indiana Fever superstar appears to have played a role in the change. The announcement stemmed from an initial report on X made by USA Today. Soon after US Today's post, it was confirmed the program existed during the May 7th Associated Press Sports Editors Commission meeting in New York. It was quoted saying that the program will be launched as soon as we logistically can get the planes in place. We intend to fund a full-time charter for the season. We're going to, as soon as we can get up and running, maybe it's a couple of weeks, maybe it's a month, we are really excited for the prospect here. In reply to that X video, Jamel Hill of The Atlantic wrote, Caitlin Clark is hopefully going to force the charter flight issue in the WNBA the way Brittany Griner did. So Caitlin Clark's just making
Okay.
moves.
See, when I look at this, where I hear this, there's a big disparity between men's basketball and women's basketball as far as notoriety and then also funds.
Mm-hmm.
And with it being the WNBA, I feel like this is one of those situations where I feel like the NBA should have chipped in and said from the beginning they should have chartered flights. Whether no, the league doesn't make money; it loses money. It's lost money every single year of its existence. But these, even though they may not be billion-dollar athletes, they are public faces. And when you're a public face, people will come up to you in very weird, awkward moments. And with them being WNBA players, I felt like maybe they should have been kind of planning that before they had a megastar, because now it's different. Caitlin Clark isn't a star. She's a superstar. She's on the level of a Steph Curry now, as far as notoriety goes. She's on that level, and you have other stars like Brittany Griner, who, by maybe no matter how you feel about the situation that happened in Russia, is someone that has a very public image that people know about and that people have opinions on, good, bad, and ugly. So you have to protect your athletes before something happens. So I felt like the NBA should have been stepping in and helping with the chartering flights to protect their athletes from the beginning. Okay, Samantha, I'll let you start with that one, then go to Thomas.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for this since they're preventing the players, well, for being like, or they're like personal space like being violated like beforehand and stuff. And just because like there has been a few harassments that have happened, like they talked about the Brittany Griner one. So I do have respect that they're doing this. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting like how you say that the NBA hasn't really done the same. So I think that that should be considered from the other side too.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about someone like Caitlin Clark in particular, when the WNBA for a very long time has had big players, right? Brittany Griner is a great example. Candace Parker, another fantastic example, but no one's been on this level. That's just kind of the reality of women's sports. It's picking up a lot of steam, and Caitlin Clark's at the very head of that table. So I think a lot of these issues, maybe didn't pop up very often prior to this happening, whether it was because people weren't watching as much or whether it was just, that wasn't getting pushed out as much. I just think there's a certain amount of people that no matter if you watch the WNBA or you watch Iowa basketball, you know who Caitlin Clark is. And that kind of opens a lot more doors. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying on the last one, where all of these athletes just have to be comfortable in pretty much every space that you put them in. So whether that during traveling, you have to make sure they have adequate security and the right plane to go to and all of this different stuff. So this definitely should have been in place quite a long time ago, because then obviously this wouldn't be an issue, and we'd be in a place where WNBA would hopefully be at least rivaling a little bit of the other sports around the major sports landscape. But sometimes you need a big thing to happen to create, good change in sports. And I think Caitlin Clark might just be that for the WNBA at least.
Okay. Faith, let me hear your thoughts on that one.
It's definitely, I'm happy that they're taking action on this now. But I definitely feel like this should have been implemented a long time ago. I know like the WNBA hasn't been like as massive as it is now with Caitlin Clark, but if you're a public figure, especially if you're an athlete, and you're traveling, people are going to want to come up to you and talk to you and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think while I think it's great that they're doing this now, this should have been done a long time ago. That's my opinion on
Yeah.
it.
And, they're not the NBA, but they're kind of part of the NBA. And I felt like, the NBA has been pushing to grow the WNBA, but part of that pushing to grow the WNBA is protecting the players. You don't, and actually, this is actually a good thing, guys. When you look at it, you'd rather have this come out now than, especially the way things are going in the world nowadays, it to be a scary, super scary situation. This is called a preemptive strike. They should have done this way before, but I'm glad that it's kind of brought to the attention so that people can be protected going forward, because you do not want the alternative. The alternative hurts everyone. So
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, guys, we are going to take a break. But before we do that, I wanted to thank Tommy and Samantha for coming on the show. Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you guys on here again soon. But with
Right.
that, we're going to take a break. And yes.
I was gonna thank them as well, both of you guys,
Okay.
Samantha and Thomas, for coming on the show. It went really fast for me because I'm just used to Faith and I. So, and then it's also very different having, so many different personalities on here, which is actually very cool. So thank you guys for being on
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
Yeah,
No,
great to
thank
be
you
on.
for having us.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into our Florida Man Friday segment of the week. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network. Now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about Indianapolis Star-Bar's columnist Greg Doyle from covering Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever after inappropriate exchange. And we also touched on Caitlin Clark's security scare prompts the major WNBA change. And now, since it's Friday, we're going to dive into our Florida Man story of the week.
Okay, Faith.
Excited. Yes.
So, because we had extra people on, it was a lot more serious than we're accustomed to.
Yes.
So I got to loosen up and let my hair down a little bit. You know what I mean? They were a little bit heavier topics, and having extra people, we normally have a little bit more lighter hearted show. So I'm actually looking forward to this to kind of loosen up and take a little of that chip off a little bit there. But I really appreciate having those guys on.
I gotcha. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed them. Hopefully we can have them on the show again soon.
Yes.
But with that, let's dive right into our Florida Man Friday story for the week. So a Florida man was charged with flushing a woman's fish down the toilet. So a Florida man is facing several charges, including battery, grand theft, and flushing a woman's fish down the toilet. According to Cape Coral Police, Brett Austin Dahl, 29, is facing those charges based on two separate investigations. In the first, on February 7th, police said Dahl got into an argument with a woman in traffic. According to the report, Dahl got out of his vehicle, approached the victim's vehicle, reached into it, and smacked her cell phone out of her hand. The victim said Dahl also hit her left arm and spit on her vehicle. When Dahl was identified as the suspect in February incident, he was behind bars at the Lee County Jail for another incident that police said happened on May 4th. Officers said they were called to a home where the victim said Dahl shoved her, stole her iPhone, and then flushed her betta fish down the toilet. Dahl remains behind bars and faces battery, burglary, grand theft, and animal cruelty charges.
Okay, whoa. I'm confused. I am thoroughly confused. Okay, so this started out as a road rage incident?
Yes. So, the police
How did she end up at the house? At her house?
This is a different lady. This is a different situation.
This two different stories?
Yes. Two different incidents.
Okay. Because I'm like, wait a minute here now.
Two different incidents.
You found her on the road. Okay, you got to re-explain this one because I had it as one story and I'm confused as heck.
Okay, so the first incident was on February 7th. They said he got into an argument with a woman in traffic. He got out of his vehicle, approached the victim's vehicle, reached in, smacked her cell phone, and it also said he hit her left arm and spit on the vehicle. It said when he was identified as a suspect in February, he was then behind bars at Lee County Jail for the other incident that happened on May 4th, and that was when he was at somebody's house. I don't know if it was his house, if his girlfriend's house or whatever. Yeah, and shoved her, stole her iPhone, and then flushed her fish down the toilet. So that was another incident.
I feel so much better knowing that this isn't the same woman and the same man because I'm like,
no, it's the same guy.
No. I know it's the same guy. This guy, you can tell, has a history of being a fool. But I was making sure it wasn't the same woman. Unfortunately, when you start looking at criminals, there's a profile, a consistent history of doing foolish things. Does it surprise you that the guy that had a road rage incident that jumped out of his car,
somebody's fish down
slapped the phone out of somebody's hand and spit on a car? Are you surprised that he hit somebody's house and flushed their fish?
No.
Are you surprised at all? Zero.
Let me tell you something, Kate. I am never, ever surprised with these Florida Man stories because I don't know if y'all have like something in your water or what it is. I don't know. But the amount of Florida Man stories compared to like, I don't know, California or
Yeah,
Oregon.
I lived in
like-
California for 30 years. Love living in California. But there's something special about Florida. And I want to point something out to you, Faith. You have done Florida man, you've done Florida woman. You've done MMA fighters and everything else. It is Florida. There's a gravitational pull in Florida that is
Something,
unlike
man.
everything else. There are, there's alligators and pythons and boa constrictors and everything else, all the way to syphilis monkeys. And it's like, I'm not joking. They actually have syphilis monkeys.
Yeah, I read that.
And it's like, when I first saw that, they didn't just say, oh, there's a large population of monkeys. No, the title was syphilis monkeys. They can't just be monkeys. They got to be Florida up a little bit. You got to sprinkle a little of that Florida dust on them. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have if I'm walking around San Francisco, I don't worry about, man, there could be a boa constrictor running around here in the wild. I don't have to worry about there's getting eaten by a crocodile or someone jacked up on Mountain Dew doing something kind of crazy. It's a different world there.
Yeah.
Yes, I did say jacked up on Mountain Dew, but there's other things more important, more potent going on in Florida than Mountain Dew. I just take out Mountain Dew and put in other things that are popular in the state of Florida, okay? But there's just too many of these stories, and I don't understand. It's like, why do people, don't people step back and think, like, hey, I'm mad, so I go over to the car, I spit on the car, I smack the phone at her, and now I'm in county lockup. Maybe that's the moment where I'm like, you know what?
It's time to reevaluate my life.
I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to reevaluate. I need to do better. I don't need to be behind bars. So I'm going to change things. Not, you know what? I'm going to take this up another level. I'm going to baptize a fish now. Yeah, I'm gonna go to somebody's house and kill their fish. Question.
Yeah.
Most likely that fish didn't make it. Get flushed. It's not making it. So.
Well, I mean, no, it would eventually die.
Yes.
But it is in water still, technically. When you.
I don't know about that.
So.
Because I think it goes, there's water for a little while, but I don't think those pipes are all underwater all the time. So
I'm not a plumber. I don't know.
I don't think that fish is living its best life. Let's just say that. We know that fish is not living its best life. It makes you wonder about these guys and why they make these decisions. And it also made me think about a story. This is when I was moving to Europe. There was a guy, he wanted to buy the car that I wanted, my car, and I had a Jaguar Sport that I was just getting rid of, and it was a very nice car, but I needed to get rid of it because I was moving to Europe. And so I was just like, give anyone who wants to buy it a killer deal. And I gave it was a killer deal. And this guy showed up and he bought the car for very little and he takes off. And then about 3:00 in the morning, he comes back and he is like knocking at my door. He's all, like I said, jacked up on Mountain Dew. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And he's like, I'm the man. I want my money back, all this stuff. Long story short, police was called, everything. And the reason why I tell that story is because they were like, this guy had a long history of, getting upset with people, getting thrown in jail. And it was like the 4th time in a month that they had been looking for this guy for incidences. and he was just on the run. The point is, I'm getting at is sometimes these people don't, they it's like rinse and repeat. I make one bad decision, then I'm gonna follow it up with another bad decision, and then I'm gonna make a bad decision chaser afterwards. And it's just like,
let me tell y'all something. Therapy is cheaper than lawyers and paying bonds. Get some therapy if you keep going back to jail, and like you go to jail for yelling at a woman in her car, and then you flush somebody's fish down the toilet. I think it's time to get a grip, call a therapist, and get a handle on your life, okay? Because
you sure therapy isn't called a can of Natty Light in the backyard?
Actual therapy, because obviously it sounds like the cans of Natty Light are not getting you anywhere.
They're little, Natty Light, meth, other drugs. Those are not therapeutical items.
No,
you need that real deal situation, real therapy, because there are just too many incidences going on in that area, and there's no coincidence. You see things going on in Ohio and Pennsylvania and California and Nevada, but why is it Florida is so extreme, right?
I couldn't tell you.
They do it special.
They do it differently down there. For sure.
See, they don't have even Texas. Texas is a huge state with a massive population. There it's like, yeah, you get some incidences, but for the most part, everyone's like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down with an 18-ounce steak and a ribeye and just cool. I mean, and a beer and just relax. Florida don't have that relaxed moment.
Mm-hmm. No, they don't.
Maybe us Californians are way too chilled, or maybe that's what it is. Because
I can tell you why the Californians are chill, but
oh wow. See, I was about to have you elaborate, but I've decided not to. We're as Samantha was saying. As Samantha said, I'm not trying to get canceled on here, so. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any comments or anything with this dude?
No, this was an actual news article that I found. So.
Wow, man, it's just one of those things where people need to relax, stop making bad decision after bad decisions, and tell me this, Faith, you've seen that person where most times they're good people, and I'm not saying this guy could be a great guy, but I know a lot of guys like this who are for the most part, most times good people, but they lose their temper, and then it's like keeping it real goes wrong, and then they just blow their lives up, and then they're back to being a normal person, and then they lose their temper, and then they do something. They don't make that. It goes 0 to 100, like that. Not 0 to 10, 0 to 20. There aren't levels to them. It's just either I'm chill or I have lost my mind, jumped out of the car, smacked the phone out of a person's hand, spit on their car. That shows a certain level of unbalanced individual. That's all I'm saying. Not someone you want to date, marry, or anything else. Just saying.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into our oddities of the day. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier we were talking about our Florida Man Friday special, and now we're going to dive into our oddities of the day. Alrighty. So, nearly $40,000 in cash has been found in restrooms of a Marysville business. So, Money Mystery in Marysville has police trying to figure out where nearly $40,000 came from. More than $25,000 was found in the restroom at a Avalon Theater on Saturday, and then Thursday night, more than $12,000 was found in a restroom at a KFC restaurant on Delaware Avenue. Investigators said they're pretty sure the discoveries are related, but still don't know where the cash came from. We're trying to figure out whose money it is and what possible connection it could be to anything that we could see in the city, Marysville Police Captain Nate Sachs said. And that's
Where's Marysville at? There's Marysvilles everywhere. What, do you know the state?
I can check for you.
If you don't, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of different Marysvilles. And definitely, I don't think it was Marysville, California, because I don't think that money would have been turned in. I'm betting my last dollar that bad boy wouldn't have been turned in at all. There wouldn't. You're not finding no good Samaritan. Hey,
Ohio.
I went in
Marysville, Ohio.
Wow, I grew up by Marysville, Ohio. So I grew up by Marysville, California. Shoot, wait a minute. I grew up in that area.
Maybe you need to take a trip.
Ooh, dude, this wasn't the last time I was in Marysville.
Listen, so here's my theory. So Tate always jokes about how, having his bank accounts in the Caymans and everything like that. Tate
started that.
Tate did go back to the States last year. Maybe he was hiding some money in some bathrooms in Marysville. And I'm telling him the story, and in his head he's like, "Oh shoot, they found it."
They found out about it. Listen, if I go into the what restaurant was it? Were they at the KFC?
KFC.
If I go into KFC trying to get me some popcorn chicken and some biscuits, and I go in the bathroom to tinkle, and there's 25 G's just sitting on there, I'm skipping that popcorn chicken today. I'm bouncing. I'm like, thank you.
Right. I mean,
you know what I mean?
This is gonna make me sound like such a bad person.
Go ahead, because I'm keeping it real.
I understand the right thing to do if you find money that isn't yours. The right thing to do is turn it in. But if I find $25,000, I don't know if I would turn it in.
All right, I done walked into the local KFC. I want me some of that popcorn chicken. Couple biscuits, maybe some mashed potatoes and gravy. One of those bowls, I go in there, I'm gonna wash my hands up and get ready to order my chicken on. I look over there, and there's a stack of hundreds. It's about 25 grand worth. The first thing you do, Faith, do you not look over your shoulder like you getting punked? You wait. The first thing, before you pick those dollars up, the first thing you doing is like, okay, where's the camera at? I gotta make sure. Okay, Faith, do you just go ahead and grab the stack of cash, or is your first inkling like somebody's setting me up here? I'm gonna check things out. But I'm not going to walk too far away from the money, because I don't want to be checking the back urinal and somebody else walk in and grab my cash. You understand where I'm coming from? So I'm not venturing too far away from the cash, but I just want to check each of the potties and make sure nobody don't got a camera on me. But then from there, a brother may have to reach out and touch someone. That's all I'm saying. Faith, am I wrong? Look at you. The look on your
No,
face.
you're not wrong.
Priceless. That not your first inkling? You're gonna look to make sure you're not getting, that you haven't.
Yeah, I think
you're
so.
not on somebody's social media feed.
That's a lot of money. I don't think I've ever seen that much money like in front of me before.
Yeah,
25,000.
I'm gonna look around, make sure there's no cameras. I'm gonna check the potties and make sure there's nobody in there filming me. My third move is, are these like fake bills? So the next thing I'm gonna check and see if they're fake. The fourth step is step back, slide it in the pocket, hit them with the
deuces.
Now I'm out.
All right.
Is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong. Here's a question for you. What would you do with the 25,000 if you found it? Would you be responsible and save it, or what would you do?
First, I would hold on to it a couple of days to see if somebody claimed it. Mm-hmm. If someone claimed it, then I'm gonna make sure they get it back. Then I'm probably gonna help a couple people out. If it's just free money, then I'm gonna give at least 10 to somebody, one of my friends or family members that need a little help. Maybe hook them up a little bit. Drop a couple G's to Faith, and then the rest going into my account in the Caymans. There's 15 going into that account into the Caymans. Maybe I use my crypto.com account. Maybe buy me some Shiba Inu and some crypto, maybe something like that. Maybe don't y'all buy that Shiba Inu. That stuff gets a little cheap sometime. But maybe some Bitcoin, something like that, or buy me some dividend stocks, a few. But yeah, if it comes out that it's just free money, I'm gonna break off a piece to a couple of friends of mine just in general.
No.
It's like you ain't getting jack from me. Go ahead, Faith. All right, what are you doing?
Decided to grace me with $25,000. That's my money. It's not anybody else's money.
You're not gonna break off a little piece and buy your sister something nice?
I probably would like.
Wait a minute. Remember, sis, watching this show, you better lie at least.
I probably would do something nice for my family. But first thing I'm doing, I am going.
25 G's don't go that far, by the way. I just want to let you know. Don't go that far.
I know, but I'm a pretty cheap person when it comes to buying things. I will always find the cheaper alternative. That's just who I am. So I first would re-amp my closet, because a lot of the clothes that I've had for too long of a time, so I would revamp my closet. Then I think I'd do something nice for my family, and then the rest of it I would put in my savings account and save it.
All right, making sure. So you're gonna take care of the fam a little bit.
Yeah, I'll take care.
Are you? Here's the thing, especially at the Colonel's place, KFC. Under no circumstances, zero, am I going to walk up to that front counter and drop 25 G's in front of us like, oh, someone left that in the bathroom. Because what is that KFC worker going to do? They're going to pocket it.
Snatch it up and take it home.
Oh, we'll put that in lost and found. I lost it and found it in my pocket.
Uh-huh.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't see, but that would be, now you got me thinking about It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I don't know, why did that pop in my head? It is May, and a Christmas movie popped in my head. And I think about, in that movie, the guy is going to the bank and he goes to write out the receipt and he has the money in his in his in a bag, and he walks off and leaves the bag. And I feel bad. You feel bad for that guy, because you could totally see someone like, you know what, I got to go to the deposit. I got to go deposit money, but I'm gonna stop in this KFC, relieve myself, and then bounce out. They put that money on the counter, took care of business, and then ran and jumped in the car and ran past their First Federal Bank and realized they didn't have nothing. Then now you got to retract all your steps. That would be crazy all the way around.
You think someone is just like intentionally walking around with $25,000 and they lost it?
Wait a minute, because it's twice. It's happened more than once. You're right.
This seems a little sketch to me. I think something is
sketchy. There's no sketchy. There's no upside. Hey, I'm gonna drop 15 here.
A money drop off place for some sketchy business.
What kind of sketchy business? Granted, I am not a criminal, so you don't got that criminal-minded thing going on in your head. That's the song. That's why I called it Criminal Minded instead of, I know that wasn't proper grammar, boys and girls, but it was a song back in the 80s. So I was just doing that just to fill y'all in. But how many criminals are saying, yeah, do the drop off? What I want you to do is go into the KFC or the Mickey D's, and I just want you to, on the counter, I just want you to drop 25 G's right on the counter and then walk out.
No, they put it in the bathroom. It was in the bathroom.
Right. That's what I meant. In the bathroom. Well, maybe, because there's too many people going in and out.
Maybe they tried to hide it but didn't do a very good job. I don't know.
Unless it was like the dumb criminal. No, it wasn't you. That was Sarah's dumb criminals. Never mind. Was it yours or was it Sarah's dumb criminals? The guys broke into a house, found in the cabinet 3 jars of white powder, and just assumed it was cocaine. Yeah, this was Sarah's. They found 3 jars of white powder, just assumed there was 3 mason jars full of cocaine, and just ran off with it and started using nose candy like crazy. Turned out someone was keeping their lost loved ones. and they just snorted up all their lost loved ones. Sorry, you weren't here for that one. Sorry about that, Faith. I told you, dumb criminals. Look at the look you just gave. But I mean, it's just as bad. You're showing up and left your 25 G's on the counter, because that's not something that happens. But you said in the article, they've done a couple of different places that they've dropped this off. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's just one absent-minded store clerk that's just been going around intending on going to the bank, but keeps forgetting the money and grocery store and bathrooms?
I think there's something sketchy going on.
But they can't be doing something, because they didn't got caught up twice. At least 2 times they left a chunk of cash in a restroom.
Know who did it. Not yet, anyway.
Wow. I guess, or maybe there is. Let's say there's a good Samaritan out there, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna go to the poor neighborhoods. We're just gonna drop some cheddar off in the bathroom at fast food establishments. I don't know about that. I don't think they don't. That don't make no sense to me.
There's something else going on. And that's all I gotta say.
Ooh. All right. Just say next time, just drop that 25 G's off of Faith. You don't even have to. You can skip me.
Yeah.
Send that Faith. Send that cheddar to Faith.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, all right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to close out the show. Thank you so much for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you on Monday. Peace.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that